Welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. You have found your way to the final installment of the Child Abuse Prevention Month 2026 webinar series. We are going to begin in just a moment with our presentation. Today's session is about self-care. We are so grateful to have our presenter with us, and we're just giving folks a moment to find their Zoom link and get in here. In the meantime, I do have a little question for you. I'm curious, in those moments where you get some alone time. Now, some of you are like, what is that? I understand. But in those moments where, let's say, you get 30 minutes to your absolute self, what are you doing with that time? What would your unwind time look like when you have it? If you could find it, what would that look like? You can tell me in the chat. What would your 30 uninterrupted minutes look like if they were just for you? For me, they're going to involve reading. Oh, I see meditation, walking, reading a good book. Wonderful. Laying in bed. I hear that. Sometimes I just want to lay down. I don't want to do anything. Quick nap, walk the dog. I suppose my dog would appreciate that one. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are just about to get started here in just a few moments for this final installment for the Child Abuse Prevention Month webinar series. And in the meantime, as folks are finding their way into this Zoom session, we were asking a question. The question was, if you could get 30 uninterrupted moments to yourself, a little unwind time, if you will, what would you do with it? I've heard everything from walking a dog, listening to music. I've even seen uh, straightening up a little bit, looking up plants. I love that so much. Going for a run, stretching. These are all great. Maybe give us a little inspiration for those that need it. Visit a rose garden. I love that watercolor. Wonderful. Well, I am hopeful and excited for you to jump into today's session where we're going to be talking about things like self-care tools for high impact care teams. We have a presenter with us that is going to be speaking on that topic. And as a reminder, every Wednesday throughout the month of April, the Office of Child Abuse Prevention, along with some other partners such as the Child Abuse Prevention Center, the California Training Institute, we're best known as CalTrin, and Safe and Sound have partnered to bring you a different session every Wednesday throughout this month. So we have found our way to the last one. And if you would advance me to the next slide, please, I want to give you a little reminder of what today is about. This final webinar in the CAP month is about self-care tools for high-impact care teams. In this session, the goal is to learn practical, body-based self-care skills that can be used in real time during a shift, between hard interactions, and of course at home to reduce stress load and recover faster. To do that, we're going to be speaking in just a few minutes. I'm going to introduce you to our presenter. We are very excited to hear from today. And before we do, a few reminders on the next slide. First and foremost, this session is being recorded. A copy of this session will be made available to you in a 2-day email, but also it is stored in a YouTube playlist. So if you missed any of the sessions, any of them at all, you can catch a replay on YouTube. We will drop that link for you in the chat. Because I'm nosy, I am curious. How many sessions have you attended? Count this one. So if this is your first one, you'd say 1. If you've gone to all of them so far this month, this would be number 5. Just tell me, how many have you done? Great. For some of you, this is the first. For some, you caught some when you could. Some of you did all of them. Very nice. Well, if you missed anything, that will live for you on YouTube. I just want to make sure to mention that. We also have prepared an action sheet for you. An action sheet is essentially just a way to kind of keep your notes together. We're going to drop that action sheet into the chat for you if you've been using it throughout the series, and just pull yours up. Today's session also may have some interactive features, so maybe you have a question for the presenter. There is a Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen. You should be able to enter a question in there. And of course, if you have comments or if something really sits with you well and you like the tools and strategies that are being provided, a way that we virtually clap in this session is by giving a reaction. So if you can find your reaction at the bottom of your screen, why don't you go ahead and click something so that you know where it is. Be ready. Oh, there we go. See, you found it. Perfect. I love it. Stay ready with that one so that as your presenter is giving tools, you can click on something that is meaningful to you. Lastly, but not leastly, you should also know that there is a certificate of completion or of attendance, I should say, for this session that will be made available to you at the end of our time together, which is 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. You will complete a very brief survey, and at the end of that survey, you'll receive your certificate. So I wanted to make sure to mention that. If we have any participant notes of any sort, we will also be dropping that into the chat for you. Oh, there it is. So in the chat, you'll see some note-taking slides so that you could track along with today's content, and of course, that action sheet. I think those are maybe all of the little notes that I have. I suppose the very last thing I wanted to mention on the next slide is just telling you where we are in the series. So as you can see, we are on April 29th, the fifth installment of this webinar series. Number 1 through 4 can all be found in that YouTube playlist. And we are so excited for you to revisit some of those top strategies if any of them were meaningful for you. Now, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for the day. We're super excited to invite Dr. Nick Monzon with us, who is a licensed clinical psychologist, somatic experiencing practitioner, and founder of Integrative Trauma Collective in California. We're very grateful for today's content. Hello, Dr. Monzon. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is such an honor to be here presenting, but also to present on a topic that is so important. As someone that's worked in trauma since 2012, this work is hard. This work is extremely hard. It's harder than a lot of people give it credit for. And if we're able to take good care of ourselves, we're able to show up better for our team. We're able to show up better for the people who really need us. So this topic is very important to me. It's something I've been looking forward to for a couple months now. So thank you so much for having me here.
No, thank you. And we're very excited for today's discussion. And we will pass it off to you. I will invite everybody to welcome Dr. Monzon to the virtual stage with your reactions. And don't forget, should you hear something that you really like, you can let them know with reactions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So again, good morning. Thank you everyone for being here with me today. My name is Dr. Nick Monzon. I'm the founder and executive clinical director of the Integrative Trauma Collective. Yeah. And today's topic is sustainable care. Real-time somatic tools for stress, burnout, and secondary traumatic stress. As helpers, as providers, as healers, we encounter secondary traumatic stress every single time we meet with a client, with a patient, with a family. And every time it gets poured into our pot, we need to find ways to help mitigate that. We're about to have a second guest. My cat is going to join us, hopefully, if I can get him up here. But I do have four cats, so we might be seeing at least one pop up throughout the day. So, just a little bit about me. So, I began working with trauma in 2012. Here's one of my cats right now. This is Roz. If anyone is a cat person or if anyone is interested in names, I am a licensed clinical psychologist and somatic experiencing practitioner. And I've worked across a wide range of populations and clinical settings, starting with I was one of the first males accepted for the rape crisis hotline in Long Beach. That's where I started working with trauma. And I've worked in schools, hospital settings, psychiatric wards, colleges, community mental health centers, private practices, small hospitals, big hospitals, and now have my own group and private practice. So, very familiar with trauma in all kinds of different uh, presentations and avenues, and also very familiar with the different types of teams that we have when we're trying to work and help with trauma, from solo practitioners all the way up to large hospitals. So, why does any of this matter? Well, child abuse prevention work places a real demand on the people doing it. One of my favorite and still to this day hardest places that I worked was a community mental health center where we had a lot of child abuse cases. It was wonderful work, but I came home every night stressed out, tired, fatigued, maybe a little bit short with my friends and family. The problem is that the work is very meaningful. It's highly necessary, especially right now, and it's deeply, deeply impactful. We have the ability to help heal families, to help bring families together, to help families navigate difficult, scary, traumatic times. Those are not small asks of us, those are really big asks. And because of that, it's activating, it's exhausting, and it's hard on the body in ways that we don't always think about because the body, it's very quiet. It doesn't start to really shout until things are kind of at a breaking point. What I want to do today is help everyone here notice our body and notice the small cues that our body's saying is, hey, we might be reaching burnout if we're not there already. Because stress doesn't stay in the mind. Actually, stress doesn't even start in the mind. Stress, emotions, activation, all of these start in the body first. There's a body cue. It sends a electrical charge up to our brain, and then our brain goes, "Oh, okay, I might be stressed out. I might be anxious." All of these things show up in our nervous system first. They show up in the body, they show up in the way we're paying attention, and they show up in our tone and our capacity to stay present. That is one of the biggest things. Dr. Peter Levine, the creator of somatic experiencing, refers to trauma as the inability to stay present. And I don't know about anyone here, but there's definitely been times where I've been in a session with a client, or I've been in a really difficult charged room, and I'm having a hard time staying present. I'm having a hard time being in the moment and reacting appropriately, not in any bad way, but just because this case is impacting me so much. And that's also one of the hardest things is this work calls on people who deeply, deeply care. When we deeply care, cases hit harder. They land in our nervous system harder because we really want people to be safe. We really want people to have a good life, to thrive. So I hope that the tools that I'm able to teach today help everyone here come back to being present and come back to ourselves. So today's focus is about real-time tools. We're not talking about perfect self-care. In my mind, there is no such thing as perfection across any spectrum. Today, we're focusing on real-time tools that you can work. They're small, they're simple, they're, not perfect, but that's the point. They're good enough to use in the field, at the office, and at home. We're going to briefly talk about how stress shows up in the body. We're going to talk about how fight, flight, and freeze shows up in helping professions. And then we're going to go over those somatic tools. All of this is ways to return to yourself in hard moments. Now, in my private practice, I see trauma cases. That's all I work with right now. So every single hour when I'm seeing a new client, it's a different flavor of trauma that I'm walking into every single time. And I use a lot of these tools sometimes in sessions with clients when I'm like, "Hey, this is really charged. This is really activated. Let's do this together." Not just because your nervous system needs it, but because mine does too. But also between sessions, I have that 10-minute period. I've gotten to the point where I can do anything in 10 minutes, whether it's cook lunch and eat it in 10 minutes, or do a myriad of these tools that I know I need after a difficult session. That is the key here, is these tools are meant to be used in the moment, not at the end of the day when stress and charge has already been accumulating over and over again. We want to use these tools in the moment when our body is noticing something. So this is an educational, practical, and body-based space. This space is also flexible. I like to use these tools with my eyes closed. A lot of people like to use them with their eyes open. Whatever is comfortable for you, please do that. If you start doing a tool and you're noticing that there's a little bit of activation, there's a little bit of charge, there might be a feeling in your chest of, oh, this is going to bring up a lot, please stop. Please stop the tool and we'll show you how to use a different one. And again, just as a reminder, this space is not therapy. and it's not for trauma processing. The space is a learning environment. So, just some of my own guidelines. Keep your eyes open if that feels better for you. I personally like doing these with my eyes closed, but eyes open is 100% fine. There's no pressure to share personal materials such as how a tool made you feel or how stress shows up in your body. If you don't want to share, that's totally fine. If need to, please pause and step away. Trauma work is very difficult, and healing trauma can also bring up some activation as well. So if any of these tools start bringing up activation, please pause. It's okay. One thing that you can do if there is activation is called orientation. So our earliest ancestors relied on being able to look around their environment at all times to know that they were safe, to know that there was no danger out there. We are the same way. Our nervous system is the same way. So briefly, if you find that any of these tools cause a charge or activation, I'm going to invite you to look around your space very slowly. That natural exhale is what we want. We want a natural exhale as we're looking around our space. This is called orientation. This is going to show up in some of the tools, but especially if there's charge activation and you're feeling uncomfortable, please stop and orient. You know your limitations. I do not. Now, the purpose of all of these tools is for small nervous system shifts only. If we do large nervous system shifts, it usually will backfire. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, I go to break rooms when I'm feeling stressed out. If for those of you who don't know what a break room is, you go in there with a hazmat suit and you just get a bat and you break everything that's around you. It's a lot of nervous system charge. It's a lot of nervous system activation. It feels really good, but it inevitably leads to a crash, and that crash is not good. What we want is slower, more meaningful nervous system shifts that build on top of each other so that we can generate what's called more capacity. We want to generate nervous system flexibility and nervous system capacity. That is the big thing that we want from using these tools. Now, I've been working with trauma since 2012 in various different scenarios, various different environments, also doing a lot of research on trauma. And this work is hard because this work is hard. I've worked in a lot of different areas, and trauma work, hands down, has been the hardest work on my nervous system, on my mind, but it's also been the most rewarding, and it keeps calling me back to do more. But things like irritability, numbness, mental overload, physical shutdown, burnout, all of these things are not signs of failure. They're not signs that you're in the wrong position. They're not signs that you're not doing your job right. All they are signs that your nervous system is carrying a lot. I'm going to say that again. None of these signs mean that you are doing bad work or that there is something wrong with you. All it means is that your nervous system is carrying more than it's meant to carry at one time. That's okay. That's actually good because that means that we can slowly start to help your nervous system put some stuff down. We do not need to carry everything every single day. We can put some stuff down until we need to pick it up again. So when stress lives in the body, we have a lot of these signs showing up. And just put, curious if you want to put into the chat, if you feel comfortable putting into the chat, just things that sound familiar to you. For me, jaw tension is the biggest one. Right now, I live in San Diego, but I used to live in Los Angeles, used to work in Santa Monica, and then worked again in Beverly Hills. And every single day on the 101, my jaw was so tight. By the end of the day, it was hard to eat. I hated it. It was like it was the worst thing for me. And even now when I drive, because I work remotely, so I don't have to drive often, but when I do drive, I notice there's a lot of jaw tension. But when I am having a difficult case or a difficult day, or there's just a particular day that's stacked with a lot of difficult cases, By the end of the day, I might have some irritability. I might have some numbness. I might need to shut down for a bit. I might have brain fog. And overworking myself is a very real and big thing. I'm going to dip into the chat here just for a second. There's brain fog, headaches. Yeah, especially when there's a lot of jaw tension. Shallow breathing is a really good one. Thank you for adding that. Irritability, brain fog, holding breath. Yes, holding our breath is a big nervous system activation. When we are in danger, there is inevitably going to be a holding of our breath because we don't know what to expect next. Yes, TMJ, chronic TMJ is also a big sign of this. Back before I did a lot of my own nervous system work, I had chronic TMJ. Now I don't, which is great. So blurry vision, yes, blurry vision can occur when our nervous system is switching between different nervous system states very quickly. Chest pain, well, yes, a lot of activation is in our chest space, because that's where our heart lives. If there's fight flight energy, our heart has to beat energy and blood faster to our feet and our hands. Yes, a lot of jaw tension. We're going to be doing a lot of jaw stuff today. So all of you who put jaw tension in there, you're going to be great. TMJ is chronic. I don't know what the acronym actually stands for, but the muscle joint in the jaw gets very tight, very painful. So yes, picking fights with family members. That's also very common, right? Because the energy, the activation has to be let out in some way, shape, or form. The hardest thing about running from our emotions is that our emotions don't go anywhere. They're inside of us. They live inside of us. So it doesn't matter how hard we run or how far we push them down, our emotions will always come back up. So these are ways that we can start gently getting rid of these emotions in healthy ways. So here's just a simple, very basic map of common survival states. I'm sure that a lot of people here have heard of fight, flight, and freeze. So those are the nervous system states that we're going to be talking the most about today. Fight is, I think about it as being hot, sharp, and pressured. Flight energy is what a lot of us might be feeling, especially in the room or especially when there's difficult cases, is that fast, scattered, urgent energy. That is survival energy that needs to be let out very gently, very titrated is how we refer to it. And then freeze is that blank, numb, heavy, shut down feeling. Freeze often occurs at the end of the day. You might find yourself getting home and going on your phone for hours, not really knowing what you're looking at, just kind of doom scrolling. That's a big symptom of freeze because the nervous system is finally saying, oh, okay, now I can stop. Now I can relax. But instead of relaxing, we're zoning out. We're not connecting with ourselves. We're not connecting with the people around us. We're doom scrolling. We're freezing. So, what a lot of helping professionals often do is our job is chronically stressful. There's always going to be more cases. There's always going to be difficult cases. And as someone that's, worked in these environments as well, I remember just pushing through, having 30, 35, maybe sometimes 40 cases throughout the week, just pushing through and saying, you know what, I can do this. I can do this because I want to, or I can do this because this is meaningful, or I can do this because I love my clients. When I was working in the hospitals, I was seeing 80 people a week. And I was just put my head down, push through. But I was also overriding my body. And that was the difficult thing, is my nervous system was starting to tell me, no, this is too much. You are taking on too much. And the wonderful thing about health, about helping professionals, mental health professionals, is we stay functional on the outside. We know what to do. We're very well trained. We can rely on our training, on our education. So on the outside, we're able to still perform. But on the inside, that's where the disconnect is starting to happen. And when that internal disconnect starts to happen, that's when the chronic somatic symptoms start to pile up, such as jaw tension, such as fighting with other people. All of these things are because there's a disconnect with what's happening internally. So these tools today are going to help us start to rebuild that bridge and reconnect with what's happening inside. Because our mind's telling us we can do it, but our body's saying a very different thing. We have to listen to both. We have to find a way to bridge that gap. So when fight shows up, fight is defensive energy. I'm going to quickly look at the chats. Thank you very much for putting the TMJ in there. So the reason, Ginger, I'm not talking about fawn is because current research has shown fawn as a middle ground state between fight, flight, and freeze. So yes, fawn is very important, but right now the tools that we're going to be using are only going to be looking at fight, flight, and freeze. But you are absolutely correct. Fawn has been shown as a subtype within this section. And fawning is very, very common, and it does deserve time. But for today, I'm only focusing on fight, flight, and freeze. But if you have questions about fawn, especially about tools with fawn, I'm going to have my contact information at the end. Please feel free to shoot me an email or check out our website. So fight shows up as defensive energy. It shows up as heat in the face or the chest. It can show up as a clenched jaw. There's usually irritability or sharper tone, pressure in the hands, in the arms and hands. And the biggest thing that a lot of people overlook is there's a feeling of being braced. Someone put in the chat earlier the holding of the breath. Holding of the breath is bracing in our chest space. Our body doesn't brace unless we're expecting danger, unless we're expecting damage. My favorite imagery of our nervous system is you're walking through the woods, there's a crash behind you, and a bear pops out. Now, we don't have time to look at the bear and think, oh, I wonder if this bear's hungry. I wonder if it ate already. I wonder if it's a nice bear. I wonder if it's like friendly. No, our nervous system immediately goes into fight, flight, or freeze. We're either going to try to fight the bear, we're either going to try to climb up a tree, or we're going to make ourselves as small as possible. But either way, there's a bracing in our body because we're expecting and anticipating damage or danger. Now, bracing in the body can feel like tightness in the shoulders, especially, but it could also show up as tightening in our chest. We might be holding our breath. There might be a lot of tension in the back of the neck, the upper shoulder area. All of these are very common places that our body starts to brace because we're ready for threat. That is what the fight energy shows up as. Now, here's our first fight tool. Now, I'm sitting at my desk. I don't have a lot of wall space to do this, but you can do this either at your desk or at a wall. But you're going to start by placing both hands firmly on the desk or the wall. And I'm going to walk through this first before I do it. We're going to push firmly into the desk or wall at about 75% of our strength if this is comfortable for you. If you have some kind of arm pain, chronic arm pain, please push only to what feels comfortable for you. But if you have access to that 75% pushing, please do that. We're keeping the jaw purposefully loose as possible. And the big thing about this push tool is we want to feel our arms, chest, legs, back, and shoulders engage. So we want to push firmly for about five to 10 seconds at 75% of our power. And then for 5 seconds, pushing for as much power as you want. And the key for this is to slowly release after pushing. So I'm going to demonstrate here. Just going to push. So again, we're feeling into the shoulders, biceps, triceps, back. Whenever there is nervous system activation, especially fight flight energy, we want to use our big muscle groups to start using that activation, utilizing that activation. And again, because fight energy comes off as defensive, this is one of the first tools that I will go to with clients. The second is hand press into thighs. So sitting back comfortably in your chair, you want to have as straight a spine as possible. You want to plant both feet into the ground and then press both hands firmly into the area between your thigh and your knee. And you want to hold for about 5 to 8 seconds and allow an exhale as you press. Again, we want to release the body, slowly release our arms slowly from this. And I'm going to show a second variation of this exercise. Let me just make sure it doesn't show up on the next slide. It does not. Okay, perfect. So for those of you who don't want to put your hands under your desk, or you don't want to press into your legs, or there might be some leg pain there, a variation of this is to put your hands together. You're going to put the palms of your hands pressing in, and you're going to push your palms into each other. Again, exhaling as you do, but paying close attention to the big muscle groups, the shoulders, biceps, forearms, all of these big muscles you want to be able to utilize in this moment. So I'm going to go over the third. Oh, yeah. Shake plate could be really cool. Nice. So I'm going to go over the last one for flight, for fight really fast, and then I'll answer any questions. So if I were to ask people, what kind of music do you think produces the happiest listeners, the happiest people? If you want to just put into the chat right now, what kind of music creates the happiest group of people? Pop, folk, 80s, rock, loud, yeah, classical, country, lo-fi, calm. Ah, Disney ambiance. Yes, big Disney fan here, if you can't tell. Jazz, I do love jazz. Do really enjoy jazz. So there has been research that's come out that's shown that the happiest group of people actually listen to metal music. Yes, for those of you who do not believe me, there's been several studies that have come out in the past 5 years that have shown that people who listen to metal are some of the happiest people. And I've been listening to metal since I was 8, and I can attest, yes. After I go to a show, after I listen to a song that's particularly meaningful, I feel so much better. And the reason for this is because of the silent scream. Metal music particularly invites us to access emotions that we don't necessarily have, free will or free access to throughout the day. Anger, sadness, grief, depression. These are emotions that society tells us not to feel or to push down. But the silent scream accesses healthy, protective anger. And the reasoning for this is because human beings do not have a tail. We don't have claws. We don't have scales. We don't have a stinger. We don't have many offensive weapons. Even our hands. Yes, we use our hands and our feet to fight, but primarily our hands and feet are not offensive weapons. They're more defensive. They're used to build. Our earliest ancestors used our hands to plant crops, to build, to create. For the most part, our body was not created to destroy things. It was created to build, to give life, except for our mouth. Our mouth can bite, it can chew. If someone is fighting us, we can bite them. So the silent scream helps access some of that protective anger, that protective energy. So it's going to look like this. Probably should not have a cough drop in my mouth as I'm doing this. It's going to look like sitting very comfortably. And this is not a tool I suggest using in public because you're going to look ridiculous, but I'm going to do it for all of you right now because I don't mind looking crazy. And you're going to take a nice deep breath in. And then on the exhale, you're going to release the jaw as much as possible, as much as what's comfortable. And you're going to pay attention to the sides of the jaw muscles specifically. So it's going to look like this. And someone's just coming into this room and they're going to see me doing this. They're going to think I'm crazy. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, there we go. So that natural exhale that came out towards the end, that's exactly what we want. Our body does not exhale until we feel safe. There has been a couple people in the chat that have mentioned holding their breath. They feel like they're holding their breath all the time. Yes, because your nervous system is not feeling safe. Our body does not exhale until we are back to safety. Now, I've done this exercise probably at least a couple hundred times now. So for me, I don't have to do it very long to get that natural exhale and that uh feeling, that just total kind of relaxation feeling. I don't have to do it for very long, but you might have to do this a couple times to get the same experience. Now, with all of these tools, we want to repeat at least 2 or 3 rounds, depending on how much activation, how much charge you have. So before we go, find that sigh when stressed. Yep. Erica, yep. What's up? Yes. So we're going to move on now to flight. And this is where I imagine a lot of people's nervous systems today are going to be. Flight shows up like the following: feeling like we have to rush or that we're rushing all the time. Always scanning for danger. You might be driving and scanning the road. Every single second of your drive is scanning. You might go into a room and you're scanning for the exits, or you're scanning for people that might be dangerous, or you're scanning for people that you might not like. Even when you're at your own home or you're with family, you might be scanning for to see how different family members are reacting. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they mad? In the office, this often looks like an inability to settle. This looks like jumping tasks, doing one thing and then going to the other, then going back to the one thing. This might look like over functioning, over controlling your day-to-day life. I just realized that I was talking a little bit faster, and talking fast is one of those things. So obviously, there's a little bit of flight energy here. But the big one is urgency that will not shut off. That is the biggest pull with flight energy. Urgency in our nervous system typically starts in the heart space, but it can also go down to our solar plexus here. And urgency is the feeling of there's something wrong or there's something that needs to be resolved, and I need to do it right now. I need to do this right now to make sure that I am safe. And this comes off in small tools, small tasks, small things that are urgent, and then larger things that are urgent. But either way, there is a sense of urgency. So I'm just curious, how many people have any of these flight symptoms? If you don't feel comfortable sharing, please don't. But I will throw myself in there. I am definitely urgent a lot of the time, especially when I know that I have a busy week or I have things that I know need to get done, such as, notes or dealing with insurance. Rushing, yes, yes. Over texting is a big one. Yeah, all of the above. Well, thank you. These are only some, but Yeah, a lot of flight energy showing up. Okay, cool. So we're going to go over some tools for flight energy. Let's get this energy out of our system. So the first one is controlled stomps. Now, I've done this a couple ways. You can either do controlled stomps, or for those of you that are gamers, I like to also think about Donkey Kong when I do this, and I do the whole Donkey Kong controlled stomp, throwing of the barrel. But let's start with the regular controlled stomp. So you're gonna stand if available. I prefer doing these seated. For me, it feels better seated, but you can always do this standing up as well. Now, the controlled stomp is you're going to lift up one foot and you're going to bring it down into the ground with as much force as you want, and then wait for about a second or two. Bring up the other leg, stomp, and then exhale. After each round of one, two, left, right, you're going to exhale. And these are deliberate stomps. The reasoning for this exercise specifically is flight makes us feel like we have to move quickly. Flight makes us feel like there's urgency in our nervous system. We have to deal with something right away. I have plenty of clients who've come into my office, sat down, and wanted immediately to tell me the worst things that have ever happened to them. And they get caught up in the story. They get caught up in the trauma again. They get caught up in the activation. And what I'm doing right now is exactly what I do with them. I don't talk quieter, but my cadence has slowed down. My own sense of urgency is deadened, slowed as much as possible, because my nervous system is going to be able to dictate how their nervous system is. If they come in and they feel that my nervous system is matching their urgency, they're going to keep feeding into it. But if they come in and my nervous system says, "Hey, this is okay. We don't have to move fast here. There's no danger right now." That's going to tell their nervous system, "Okay, maybe I can relax. Maybe I'm not in danger. Maybe I can accept safety." The controlled stomp is one of the ways that we do that without speaking. We tell our body we're going to move slowly right now. We're going to control our body. We're going to control this activation right now because it oftentimes feels so out of control. And for those of you that are interested in the Donkey Kong version of this, again, just because I am a gamer here, you do one stomp, again, pause, second stomp, slowly reach over, grab the barrel, and then throw. So, important things with this tool is we want to feel the whole foot land. At the end, we want to stop and feel both feet. Now, if you are unable to do this tool, an alternative is alternating foot presses if you're not able to fully engage with this tool. So it would be pressing the right foot into the ground, slowly releasing, and then pressing the left foot into the ground, slowly releasing. Again, these are not overly complicated tools. They're tools that you can use in the office, in the field. I've done this with clients. I've done this while clients have been, you know, getting mad at me about something. These tools are small things that as you build up over time, it will start to shift your nervous system and you'll start to notice that you're able to deal with more with less activation. That is the goal with all of these tools is nervous system adaptability and nervous system flexibility, nervous system engagement. I'll go through these tools and then I will look at the comments. So the second flight tool, again, you're going to notice that the fight tools focus on the upper body, whereas the flight tools focus on our lower body. It's because flight energy typically will live in our legs. It will live in the part of our body that allows us to run away from danger. So again, seated or standing, Again, I like to do this seated, but you're going to have both feet firmly planted into the floor. You're going to hold this for about 5 to 8 seconds, and then you're going to switch and you're going to point your toes up. Again, holding for 5 to 8 seconds. As you're pointing your toes up, you're digging your heels into the ground. And then switching, having the toes digging into the ground with the heels up. Again, this is using different leg muscles depending on if the toes are up or down. And that is exactly what we want. We want to utilize the energy that's stored in our body, stored in our legs. And then we're going to release and repeat. I like to do this for 2 to 3 rounds, but just repeat for as comfortable as this feels for you. Now, this last one here is a wall push or desk push. And no, you're not seeing things. We did also have this for fight. Now, the difference is important though. When there's fight energy, when there's a desire to break something, when there's irritability, when there's a desire to push, what we're doing with our body as we're pushing against the desk or pushing against the wall is we are utilizing the big muscle groups here to push. We're utilizing that push defensive energy. For flight, this same tool can be effective because we're now using a different flavor of energy. We're using survival energy instead of defensive energy. So it's going to look and feel similar, except for this one, instead of pushing so hard into the desk, we're just allowing the desk or the wall to hold us, for us to be able to push into it and feel the resistance against us. So it's going to start with the same thing, placing hands on the desk, but we're not pushing with 75% of our energy, of our strength this time. We're only pushing with what feels comfortable. And only until we start to feel that natural exhale or that resistance. And also, with this, we're also feeling more into our legs and our back. This is especially good if you're pressing against the wall. You're able to feel more of the leg muscles, which hold more of the survival energy over the arms. Again, after we're done, stepping back, pausing, and repeating for 2 to 3 rounds. Now, an important thing before I go into the comments and see what if there's any questions here is what to do after all of these tools. I wanted to give you the fight flight tools first before I go into this. After each use of a tool, we want to stop and feel into our nervous system, and we want to notice what has shifted or changed. Are there small shifts? Are there subtle shifts? Are there tiny shifts? Or are there bigger shifts? Does that natural exhale that comes after doing some of these tools, does that bring more relief? Does that bring more warmth? Does that bring more space, more capacity to deal with our job, to deal with difficult family members, to deal with the drive home, to deal with traffic, to deal with commuting, to deal with a system that isn't treating you fairly? We want to search for what has shifted, what has changed. Again, we don't want giant changes with these tools. We want small changes that can build up over time. So before I go to freeze, just checking to see if there's any questions. Um, the stomp. I love it. Yeah, actually, dancing is one of the really great ways to regulate our nervous system. I used to do a lot of ballroom dancing back in the day. Not so much anymore, but if you want to get up and dance, that's also a really good way to utilize survival energy specifically. Specifically, survival energy, not fight energy, but that urgency, Dancing can very much help with that. And the big thing about dancing that you want to do, I'm going to look ridiculous here, is you want to move the shoulders as much as possible. And then you want to move the legs, the bottom half, the knees as much as possible. Now, the reasoning for that is they found that animals in the wild are rarely ever traumatized, even though animals deal with, the whole food chain thing on a daily basis. It's only when humans come in and cage animals that there's those trauma symptoms. But for the most part, animals that are in the wild that do not have much contact with humans, they don't show a lot of trauma symptoms. The reasoning why is because their body has learned how to feel and engage with the fight flight energy and then release it at the appropriate time. The video that they showed us was of a gazelle running from a lion. And it wasn't until the gazelle got away and was able to walk a little bit, knowing that it was safe, that it started to do the full bodied shake, where it would shake out its entire body. And then it would go back. It would go join the herd and go back to eating grass, go back to just hanging out. And for those of you that have animal friends, especially dogs do this a lot after play. After there's a lot of activation, after there's a lot of charge leaving their body, they do that full-bodied shake and then they come back and then they relax. So I notice my cats do this after they have the zoomies, but yes, dance break, walk break too. Very much a fan. Dance breaks are very, very important. So now that I have danced for everybody, let's move on to freeze. Freeze shows up. Yes, sitting on the floor is also going to be very helpful. When you're sitting on the floor, I'm going to add just another layer to that, is noticing your feet pressing into the ground, noticing your seat muscles sitting onto the earth. Especially if you're outside, sitting on the grass is very helpful. Nature is one of the biggest resources that we have in terms of lowering our nervous system activation. So freeze. Freeze shows up in the body as numbness, as shutting down. Again, doom scrolling, staring at the screen. You might notice a difficulty speaking. You might find it hard to start tasks, and an overall feeling of being very far away. But the biggest thing about freeze is that when we're stuck in freeze, when our nervous system is in freeze, it's really hard to connect with other people and ourselves. That's the biggest draw about freeze, is it shuts off our ability to be present with ourself, with family, with our children, with our loved ones, with clients, colleagues, coworkers, whatever it is. So I'm curious, how many people these freeze symptoms are familiar. For me, especially when I call them marathon therapy days, when I have like 7 or 8 clients in a row, by the end of it, I am completely shut down. I am completely blank. I try really hard not to doom scroll anymore. I used to. That used to be something that I would do to cope. Now, I try to just be as present with my body as possible and with my wife as possible. But yes, definitely for me, shutting down, numbness, blank mind sometimes. There's sometimes a difficulty with starting tasks that I've noticed too, especially in grad school, especially when there's a lot of things piling up. It's like, oh man, that's really hard. Yes, grounding techniques can be utilized throughout the day, indoors and outdoors, especially. Doom scrolling. Yes, I did a workshop for it's called the Asian Mental Health Project. I did a workshop around doom scrolling and why. Why do we doom scroll? It gives us momentary relief from freeze, but it doesn't actually solve anything. And I love this imagery of the iceberg because this is freeze. Freeze is so much internal. It's an internal experience. It's not something that a lot of people can see. So especially when we're frozen, family might get mad at us. What are you doing? You're at work all day and now you're back and you're not even talking to me. Or you're at work all day and you don't want to spend time with your family, you don't want to spend time with your kids. There's a lot of shaming that occurs around freeze. But fight, flight, freeze, these are all very natural, very automatic defenses that our nervous system uses. So no, there is no shame around freeze, but we want to find ways that we can get out of it quicker. So the first one for freeze is called the VU sound. Now, for those of you who do any sort of yoga, you might notice the Om or any kind of Eastern meditation. You might notice the similarity to the Om sound that's often done. The VU sound is very, very similar. It's literally just saying the word VU and holding it as you exhale. So I'm going to do it for you, and then I'm going to explain why this is such an important tool. So it starts with taking a nice inhale in and then exhaling and saying VU. Voo. My computer thinks I'm playing professional music. That's kind of cool. So, the reasoning for this VU sound is three things. The first is the vibration in our skull, in our cranium, that is created by this VU sound. It's going to land right about here between the second and third part of our brain. That part of our brain has what's called the ventral vagal nerve that goes all the way from our brain to our gut. A lot of you might notice that when you're more anxious, when you're more scared, when you're more shut down, there's going to be gut problems as well. You might be having to go to the bathroom more. You might have chronic IBS because our nervous system also is in charge of our gut. And the VU sound activates and triggers that nerve to start to release some of that relaxation um, energy. It's the simple word for it. Now, you can do 2 to 4 rounds of this VU sound, but after each round, you want to stop and pause and notice what has shifted, what's changed after doing that. I always really enjoy doing the VU sound because then everything kind of calms down. And right now, like I'm feeling super relaxed, even though I'm doing this presentation, but my body is a lot more relaxed. Now, the reason for something as simple as the VU sound is that when we're in freeze, we don't want big shifts, especially when we're in freeze. We want small shifts, tiny little shifts that we can use to start activating and mobilizing some of this energy. The second thing that the VU does is the vibrations itself activates some mobilization of our nervous system. And the third is it's just really, really calming and really relaxing to say VU. So that's the first tool for when we're in freeze. Second one, again, these are going to be a lot more simple and a lot more straightforward, is the chair pushback. You're going to start by having a straight spine, as straight as you can. And then you're going to press your upper back gently into the chair that you're sitting in, pressing your feet firmly into the ground. And we're going to hold for about 5 seconds. And then come back. Now you noticed at the end there, my body had that natural exhale, especially with freeze tools. With freeze tools, we want to notice the natural exhale. Freeze is our body's way of telling us that we cannot fight back and we cannot run away from this threat. This threat is too large. and too expansive for us to protect ourselves against, we have to go into our smallest possible form. That means that we're going to be holding our breath more in freeze. It means that we're not going to be exhaling enough in freeze. And if we do exhale, it might be a truncated, shortened exhale, more like this. That's not a full exhale. We want that full, natural exhale. The So again, I'll go through these tools and then answer any questions that people might have. So the third one is toes, orient, and time. Again, these are very simple freeze tools. The first part of this is you're going to wiggle your toes in your shoes. And you get to decide, are you going to wiggle them fast? Are you going to wiggle them slow? Whatever it is you want. You have the choice here. I like to wiggle mine slow and relaxed. And then this is where the orientation comes back in. We're going to look around and we're going to find three things that we can name. And I also like to say and to add in that these three things should be things that bring a smile to your face. Right now, I'm looking at Disneyland. You can do shadow silhouettes, and I had them done of my cats, and I have them up here on my wall. So anytime I'm stressed out, I can just look up and I see these like really adorable shadow silhouette cutouts of my cats, and it's just they always bring me so much joy and so much happiness. But also looking around the rest of my space, I'm seeing elements of my room that are mine, elements of my office that are mine, things that are important to me, and they bring a smile to my face. They bring joy to my system. And that is one of the big things is to get out of freeze quickly. We want to connect to ourselves, but also feel connection to others. That is why looking around the space and finding things that bring joy, bring a smile to your face are so important. Now, the last part of this exercise of this tool is quietly saying either out loud or to yourself internally, I'm here. I am in this room. This is right now. And I am okay. Taking a moment to let those words land in, I am okay, is the biggest one. Our nervous system is primarily preoccupied with making sure that we survive until the following morning. So if there's threats in our environment, our nervous system will find them. It will try to figure out how to get around them. But again, in this space, I am safe. There is no danger. There are no threats in this space right now. And now that my nervous system has accepted that, there's more of a settling. And with these tools, we want to be more aware and more mindful of what does settling feel like in our nervous system? What is different with settling than with fight, flight, or freeze? What does relief feel like? What does joy and happiness feel like? So the last one is an alternative to the VU sound. If you can't do the full VU, it's just doing a closed mouth hum on the exhale. So we're going to take in a nice deep breath in, and on the exhale, we're just going to hum. Mm. Oh, excuse me. Mm. It's actually a really good, like real-time experience of the nervous system. You're going to notice that as your nervous system shifts from fight, flight, freeze into more of it's called ventral vagal relaxed state, you're going to be a little bit more gassy. There's going to be a little bit more burping, a little bit more passing of gas, like all these different things. The nervous system is starting to be able to move more. So just doing all of these tools in a row, I apologize, but I did want to at least try to save myself a little bit with that. So as we're doing the hum, we want to feel the vibration on our lips, face, and chest. And this is also very similar to if you've ever had a cat kind of just sit on your chest and purr. That humming sound that it's doing, that vibration is very similar to this. Cats will, uh, I just forgot what the word I just said. Cats will use that to help heal themselves, and that humming sound is also very helpful for us as well. And we want to end this again by just giving a brief recognition to what's going on, especially if someone's asking something of us in the moment. We want to do this and say, give me a moment. Especially if we're between cases, we might be between notes, we might feel there's a lot of things happening. We want to give ourselves the space and the gratitude and the graciousness to say, okay, let me slow down here. I need a second to process this. I need a second to think. Mm, Okay, I'm gonna try to. It's not letting me see the. Okay, there we go. Chat. Cat purring. There you go. Thank you. Rotating the ankles is also very good, Angela. What I'm going to say is when you're rotating the ankles, having them go the same way to start, and then having it go again counterclockwise. And then if you're feeling really fun, having one go one way and one go the other way is also very helpful too. Tapping is also very good when we're frozen. Brenda, I think bilateral tapping is also very helpful. So a tapping exercise for freeze would be to have your arms crossed like this, and then slowly tapping one side to the other, especially for freeze. We want to do slowed down movements here. Yes, humming music especially happens when we're maybe a little bit stressed out. It might be something that we're doing unconsciously or subconsciously. But yeah, it's definitely one of the ways that our nervous system likes to settle. And love all the cat stuff. Thank you so much. I love cats. But yes, the cat biscuits too. One of our cats, he does like the smallest little biscuits. It's like he's still learning how. He's just like going into it. And sometimes when I'm stressed out, I'll like just do that with him. So these are some of the tools that you can use in the office. Now, the first one is hand press into the thighs, but also an alternative to the hand press into the thighs is alternating. You're going to alternate as if you are drumming on yourself, and you can do this very slowly. And this is going to be good for freeze. But this is also going to be good for urgency because, again, we're controlling the bilateral tapping. I do this quite often when I'm in sessions, especially when I'm like trying to think about what to say next, or I'm trying to think of the best intervention, and I'm kind of, moving a little bit slower. I'll just do a little bit of self-drumming on myself. I used to be a drummer, so that also helps kind of tap into my resource, what makes me feel happy. Now, I don't think that you can all do the silent scream in the office. So instead, here's two alternatives. The first is called the melting tongue. So our tongue naturally sits right about here. We want to bring our tongue all the way down to about here, all the way down to the bottom of our mouth. And again, waiting for that natural exhale. The melting tongue does two things. One is it forces the jaw muscles to stop clenching. And two, bringing the tongue all the way down is telling our body, okay, we don't need to be on right now. We can relax right now. If that doesn't feel comfortable too, you can always do the guppy mouth. And there's going to be a little bit of a zoom into my face just so I can show you. But the guppy mouth is you want your mouth to be open about this wide. And again, waiting for that natural exhale. Again, the main purpose of these exercises is to unclench the jaw. When we manually are able to unclench the jaw, it tells our nervous system, okay, whatever fight flight energy was there, it doesn't need to be there right now. Again, pushing into the ground is good for the office. Doing desk pushes is really good for the office. And then closed mouth humming is very good as well. The last tool for in the office that I will suggest is again orienting to three objects. Orienting feels like such a simple tool, but actually it's one of the most powerful tools that we can use because again, our nervous system, where it sits in the brain, is directly connected to our eyes. So our vision will directly impact what our nervous system will feel. I'm going to try to get through these next slides and then I'll check the chat. But field tools. So in the field, especially if you're out seeing clients, controlled stomps are some of the good ones. If you can't do the full controlled stomps, I suggest doing controlled self-drumming on yourself. It will have a very similar reaction, especially if you get your feet involved. So right now I'm moving my feet up and down very, very gently, very slowly, slowing the rhythm as much as I would like to. Pushing into the ground is really good for in the field. If you can, a wall push is probably going to be one of your best tools, especially if there's a lot of activation. Feeling your feet in your shoes, again, wiggling the toes a bit. And then one longer exhale before going back into a difficult situation. My rule when it comes to inhales and exhales is however many counts I inhale, I add two for the exhale. And this is because a longer exhale, an exhale that's actually allowed to fully be there, tells our nervous system that we are okay right now. So if I breathe in for 4, I'll exhale for 6. If I breathe in for 6, I'll exhale for 8. I call them breath ladders. And it's very simple to do, especially when I know that I'm going to have a difficult session ahead of me. I'll start by doing an inhale for 2, exhale for 4, and then inhale for 4, exhale for 6, inhale for 6, exhale for 8. So I call those breath ladders. And then the last tool, again, in the field is orienting to colors, especially if we're out in nature. There might be, a really blue sky. There might be, a nice sunset. There might be trees in the area. There might be, fun colored houses, whatever it is. Colors or landmarks, whatever is comfortable for you. But orienting is one of the easiest things that we can do to start to settle our nervous system very quickly. So at home, because let's be honest, work does not stay at work. This kind of work does not stay at work. It lives with us. It comes home with us, especially on days where we have really difficult time. The stress is brought back to our house. So we want to make sure that we utilize these tools at home too. Now, my wife is a preschool teacher, and I've done this workshop at her school before, so she knows the VU sound. So sometimes I'll just say, "Hey, hon, I just need to do a quick VU. Can you VU with me?" And it's fun. It's a exercise that we're doing together, but it's also helping both of our nervous systems. So especially if you have like roommates or you have a family back home, teaching them the VU of, hey, this is something that I learned. Can we do it together? Especially kids. Kids love to do the VU sound. And that's one way that you can bring down nervous system activation while also connecting with family. It's really important to be able to connect with our loved ones, especially when we have a really big activation or a really hard day. So again, the wall push, really important. Controlled stomps can be very helpful, especially when you have like little kids. They can have fun with it. They can pretend like they're Godzilla or they're King Kong or whatever it is. But also doing small things for you, like a short transition walk before entering home, or a short walk before going into a really, maybe stressful family event right after work. It's gonna be really helpful. For some, lying on the floor with bent knees, someone mentioned that earlier, can be really helpful. Whenever I'd like to settle my nervous system, I have a hand on my chest and sternum and just feeling into my body as I'm breathing. But a bonus one that I didn't add on here is you're going to take your right hand in a cupped motion. You're going to bring it to the back of your neck where your brainstem meets the spinal cord. And then with your left hand, again, in a cupped motion, you're going to come around onto your forehead. And we're just applying gentle pressure from both sides. This one is really helpful for when there's a lot of activation, there's a lot of overwhelm, or at the end of the day when you're trying to let that overwhelm go. Sometimes I'll just ask my partner to put her hand right here on my neck where the brainstem meets the spinal cord. And just having that warmth there is very helpful. Again, because that triggers this fourth part of the brain. You can think of the brain as one, two, three, four. The nervous system typically lives in the third part of our brain here. So activating and interacting with that fourth part of the brain will also impact the nervous system. So when the stressor is not or is the system, I remembered how difficult it was to deal with red tape, to deal with, higher ups telling me that, we don't have the funds for this, we don't have the funds for that, or to let a case go. That's not easy. A lot of you may be dealing with budget cuts, uncertainty. There might be conflict or pressure. There might be a lack of support. All of the tools that we use today, that we learn today, are helpful, especially when there's uncertainty, when we do not have full control over what's going on. All of these tools utilize and bring back autonomy to our nervous system, and that is the most important thing. Because uncertainty in our nervous system feels like danger, it feels like threat. So, especially when we do not have control over a situation, doing these small tools where we have full control over everything that we're doing is very, very important. So, just a quick tool that I like to use whenever I'm noticing that there's small activation. As I feel my feet into the ground, I manually unhinge my jaw as much as possible, move it from side to side. I do a full exhale, and I notice what I need in this moment. And sometimes I need to just say, I just need a moment before I come back. Or I need to slow down my day. A big thing from today's workshop was getting you more in touch with what your body is telling you, what your body needs. And with this kind of work, oftentimes the body just needs to slow down. The body just needs time to feel like it is safe in this moment and it can keep moving forward. The more relaxed we are, the more regulated we are, the better we will be for our patients, our friends, our family, our colleagues, our coworkers. Nervous system regulation impacts every aspect of our life. And that is why it is so important to take it seriously and to know, okay, this is what my nervous system needs right now. So, just a little practical framework before a hard encounter that you already know is going to happen, prepare, ground yourself, do some light tapping on your body, take in that breath ladder. During hard moments, interrupt when you need to. Orient to your space, orient to your surroundings. Ask for a moment before you respond. And then after hard moments, that's when you can recover the most. That's when you utilize whichever tool you need to come back to yourself and to be more present with yourself. So we're almost done. Again, thank you so much for spending this morning and afternoon with me. But right now, I'm going to ask you just to build your plan. Picking one tool for the office that you're going to use, one tool for the field, and one tool for home. And I'm going to ask you to finish this sentence. When I start to go into fight, I will blank. When I start to go into fight, I will blank. And when I start to go into freeze, I will blank. Building the plan beforehand is so important because when our nervous system is so activated, when there's so much charge, we lose access to our prefrontal cortex. Again, because the prefrontal cortex is in the first part of our brain, that front part of our brain, and the nervous system is in the third part of the brain. So you can't think your way out of a panic attack. You can't think your way out of freeze. You have to act. You have to do these small actions because that is how we speak to our nervous system. That is the reptilian part of our brain. It does not respond well to cognitive, well thought out plans. It responds to body movement. It responds to looking around our space, utilizing our eyes. So you do not need a perfect nervous system to do meaningful work. But you do need a nervous system that can come back to yourself while you're doing it. That is going to make you a much more grounded helping professional. And it's also going to make sure that you do not suffer from burnout as much as you probably would be before. Trying to be very mindful of time. I'm going to have this up for some Q&A if people want to put them into the chat. But I also wanted just to thank everyone so much for having me here today. Thank you again for spending this afternoon with me. If you liked anything that I said, please follow us on Instagram at Integrative Trauma Collective. This QR code should take you to my website, our website, where you can check out some of the things that we've done, check out some of the rest of our team. But also, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for the work that you do. Some of the hardest cases I've ever had to work involve child abuse, whether sexual, physical, verbal, emotional. It is extremely difficult work. So thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you for doing this work. It is needed. It is so important. So thank you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. If you enjoyed this, my name was Dr. Nick Monzon. If you didn't enjoy it, my name is not important. But thank you again so much. I'm going to go to this last slide here, and then I'm going to go back to the chat.
Wonderful. I just want to say on behalf of the participants today, and I'm sure we'll see the thank yous in this session, we just want to thank you so much for not just the tools, but a demonstration of those tools. I feel like many practitioners on this line would love a demonstration, and that's exactly what you provided. I'd also like to pass it over to Hillary Conrad, who I believe has a few closing remarks before we close the series.
Thanks, Jess. And just more appreciation, Dr. Monzon. I wrote down a couple of things. I think my team is going to start having dance breaks, which I think they'll appreciate. And something that really stood out for me was that you're not doing a bad job and nothing's wrong with you. Because I think when you're suffering burnout, your brain just goes completely into negative thoughts. So that stood out. And then the capacity of staying present is really impacted by your nervous system regulation. That was another one that stood out for me because we need to be present all the time in this kind of work. So thank you. I just want to close today and reflect on the journey that we've shared. Our theme was strong families, safe futures. When we care together, families thrive. And just want to thank all of our presenters whose expertise and insight guided these conversations, to our planning partners, California Training Institute, the CAP Center, Safe and Sound, who made this series possible through their collaboration and dedication. We're equally grateful to the families and lived experts whose voices and experiences grounded this work in what truly matters. And to all of you who attended and engaged throughout this series, thank you. Your presence, participation, and commitment are what bring this work to life. Together, we explored the state of the state, the importance of prevention across the full continuum, and what it takes to build a true prevention mindset and culture. We discussed mandated reporting reform, lifted up the importance of listening to and partnering with families, and saw how concrete supports in action can strengthen families and reduce risk before crisis occurs. Today's focus on self-care reminds us that this work depends on all of you. At times, it can leave us feeling depleted, deflated, or burned out. That's why caring for ourselves and leaning on our partners and colleagues is so essential. It's often one another who help us keep going, who reconnect us to our purpose, and who sustain this work over time. So thank you for your ongoing commitment to children and families. While the series may be ending, the work continues, and the relationships we build, the support we provide, and the care we carry forward together. So I'll just end it with strong families and safe futures are possible when all of us are caring together. And I will pass it back to Jess.
Thank you so much. And for folks that are watching today, I had asked a question in the beginning if you had a chance to catch all 5 of this month's webinars. So Child Abuse Prevention Month for 2026, we did 5 Wednesdays, each with a different topic. We'd like to invite you, if you happen to have missed any of those topics and would like to go back or rewatch, you can find that in the chat. So you'll see that there is a 2 options. Number 1, you can visit the CalTrin page. We have kind of kept them all together. And that second link is for our YouTube playlist. It'll take you right to the videos. We would highly encourage you to access those. We also have a survey in the chat for you. We will be dropping again. There it is. If you select that survey, it will be brief. It'll be specific to this webinar. And then at the end, you'll have the option to select a certificate if you would like to have a certificate. With that, as we are just kind of sitting here and getting ready to log out altogether, we know that the topics have been varied and have spanned everything from mandated reporting to self-care, quite a few topics. We're just curious if you have your action sheet with you, which is a resource we provided in every session, if there's something that has stood out to you about this, if not just today, but about the series, any topics, any strategies, any resources, we'd invite you to drop those into the chat because it's always interesting to know what's going to stay with you long after today. So we'd invite you to enter those into the chat, and we will sit here to leave the link open for the survey. And with that, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you next year for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Thank you, everybody.